Hi, I'm Supermoon Tarot, and right now I'm talking to my Aquariuses. Hello, Aquarius! The way today's video is going to work is the first half is going to be checking in with your energy and the story behind that, and the second half is going to be checking in with you and another's energy and the story behind that. This is mostly for my sun signs, but moon and rising are always welcomed. It's more important about the message resonating. So let's get started. This is your energy popping up. All right. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Let's go. Let's get to the story behind this. Oh, I love this for you. Sorry, I had to I was almost going to scream out of excitement, and then I was like, I'm going to blow out the mic. Let's not. Oh, okay, this is fantastic. The reason why I got so excited is the transition between the Seven of Wands and where it's going in the Chariot, and I could not be more thrilled for you. Do you hear my excitement? So the Seven of Wands in reverse is somebody who's they're tired. They are burnt out. They've been doing it for a little while. They're like, I'm done. I'm starting to feel like I will allow, sometimes this is when the personality comes through where you become a bit of a doormat because you're just so exhausted. You're like, just whatever needs to happen. I can't even think anymore. I'm done. And then we have a total 180 in empowerment and victory with the Chariot. This is somebody who totally knows what they're doing in life. They've got a direction. They feel great. They can make anything happen because they're like, yeah, I've got this. I'm making it happen. So it's an extreme difference of where you're at over here. And we love that transition for you. Why do I keep saying we? I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm going with it. So let's talk about the things that are going right and work for you and what causes this transition and what doesn't and how we smooth all of that out, essentially. So in the Temperance card upright, this is when you figure out the right proportions of things for you at the right times. This is more of a complex sort of routine with a lot of balance in a unique fashion. So with all those words aside, the best way I can describe this is for you, it might work to be like, you know what? When I come home, I just need to watch 2 hours of TV, relax, decompress, and then I'll go, maybe clean up the kitchen. And understanding what works for you might not work for someone else. You don't have to be perfect, but it's a perfect blend between what's good for you and the things you don't want to do but you're gonna be better off for, but intertwining it with things that make you happy and might be, when we're trying to better our lives and even out our temperaments and things for ourselves, we often kind of hold ourselves to a level that's unrealistic. And this is you saying, okay, I need that happy integration between the two. And you'll figure out what that is. But it is with the the Temperance card. This is a beautiful mix between things that are emotional, physical, hobbies, the way you approach things mentally. It's a hybrid of a bunch of different things. And slowly over time you figure out, you know what? When I gossip too much, it just brings me down. I cut off the limit at 10 minutes and that's all I can handle. And then you figure that out and you make that your new sort of cardinal rule, so to speak. Now, I can see in the Knight of Pentacles, it is going to take a little while of figuring this out. That's okay. There's no rush. Honestly, things the universe has our back and things are often divine in their timing, so to speak. And in this case, because you're so burnt out with the Seven of Wands in reverse, you need the time. You need a second to catch up, But in the Seven of Pentacles, it shows us that this is when you're choosing things that are for the greater good for you. So you'll make a decision and say, is this ultimately going to make me happy in the end? When you are trying to figure out your, we'll say, routine and schedule in the Temperance card. Now remember, that looks different for everybody. So maybe when you go to grab some sort of fun food, in some people's book, that'd be like, oh, it's bad food and bad food doesn't make you feel good. But what if it makes you feel good? It's a form of relief and it's just like one little bag of chips or whatever. If that works for you and that's for your greater good of letting you release steam in a healthy way, then that's okay. You'll figure it out for you. You'll know. It's about being in tune with yourself and understand, in the long term, is this going to make me happy? In the long term, am I making excuses and say it's going to be happy, or am I going to look back and regret that I did that? And realizing sometimes it's going to feel like you're sacrificing stuff that you think would make you happy, but you look at the greater picture and you're like, you know what, this isn't going to add up to anything that's going to benefit me. And other times being like, you know what, I actually am able to see how much more relaxed I will be if I do X, Y, and Z. So you'll figure that out, but it is a little bit of a process. That process also continues over here with the Seven of Pentacles, and this is how it integrates with these two other cards. This is somebody who understands that as they plant their seeds and they stay consistent with what works for them, it's going to bloom into a bountiful garden. And it is the guarantee, we already have the guarantee here in the Chariot, that it's going to add up to something, whatever that long-term trajectory be. This could be ultimate goals like career and relationships and stuff like that. Or it could be like, I want to like who I am and be the best version of me. And I don't necessarily need to know what that version is, but I can see the smaller sum, see all the smaller parts that are going to add up to the sum, and it's the guarantee I will get there. But it's also the beautiful confirmation that, like, you don't have to know the end goal. You just kind of have like a broad idea that you're going to have a garden, so to speak. The garden is the broad idea, you're the best version of you, but the individual pentacles are really where you're going to throw in your attention, because you won't know until you plant something and see a little bit of that flower bloom, so to speak, that idea come to life, that routine appear in front of you before you're like, you know what, I don't like doing this. This doesn't work for me. Or, you know what, I didn't know how much I would be into this and how good it would make me feel or build my confidence or something like that. Now over here, I can see in the King of Swords, this is a little bit of an indicator that one of the things that have been burning you out is this sense of control you put over yourself. Control of how you think, control of how you think things need to be, control how you think things need to be handled, or routine in sort of a unhealthy way where you're like, people who feel good have to work out an hour every day. And it's like, that's just not, it doesn't work for you. And it doesn't pretty much work for anyone. And you got to stop doing that. And that's where the Knight of Pentacles pops in and asking those questions like, is this for my greater good? Like, I know it seems a good motive to do a working out for an hour every day. But if this is just like, if I'm like not looking forward to this, then is that really adding up to something beneficial? You know what I'm saying? And it shows how that control and how it pops up in that kind of way is just, again, it's the repeat of the burning out card in the Four of Swords in reverse. This is somebody who not only needs a break, but needed to take a break a long time ago. So we love that you're going to get that break. We love that it's going to take a little bit more time and you're going to figure out and really learn to shine and glow and figure out what works for you, not be like beat yourself up about it anymore, and see it bloom into something even bigger than what you had intended it for. But it's again about somebody who's able to regain their energy and take on a mindset of not letting people walk all over them, or you be walked all over by yourself and what you think the world is putting on you when it's really just you, and having this mentality of being like, I don't even need to know what the goal is. I'm going to make this happen because I understand how I best function and work, and I can just make anything work to my advantage. Totally different, confident approach. So let's see what's going on with you and somebody else. Oh, okay. We got a little bit of a, okay. Well, it's not bad, actually. Let me see. Okay. This is kind of interesting. It's like how do I put this? It's going to seem like things are off or not clicking or weird. And honestly, the thought of things not clicking or not working is the thing that's being is it misconceived or misperceived? Hopefully I'm using this vocabulary correct. Anyways, let's get into it because it does have a bit of a happy ending, but it's kind of based on how you figure out the flow. And it's all about perception rather than people necessarily needing a full 180 personality change. So let's get into this. So over here, we have the Fool card going one way and the Knight of Swords going another. This is where that sort of disconnecting energy pops up between the two of you. But the funny thing about the disconnect, it's like you guys have different ways of approaching things and mindsets, and they're not necessarily bad, but how they interact can feel like a disconnect, and we can get more specific into that. So over here we have the Fool card. They're going one way. They're kind of like wanting to be really in the moment, and they have their feet on the ground. There's a sense of groundingness and like a being present in the moment and happiness and belief, while the Knight of Swords is someone who's like, okay, I'm looking towards the future. I'm moving at a much faster speed, much more focused on the mindset and intellect and wanting clear ideas and intentions, and very much the art of conversation. And this is more like the art of doing, so to speak. That's not necessarily bad or anything that needs to be changed, but it's like it's accidentally causing both of you to go in opposing directions unintentionally. It doesn't say anything about you guys not being a match. It's just that this sort of energy can feel like a disconnect. That can be seen more clearly when we have this over here. So each element interacts with each other in a unique fashion. And for example, if you have fire in wands and then sword in air, well, if you add oxygen to that, I mean, it's gonna be real fiery. It's gonna be real intense. Well, there's no real interaction, good or bad, when we have pentacles representing earth and swords representing air. There's nothing happening, essentially. So it can feel like, oh, we're not meshing, we're not blending. It's like, well, no one said air and earth can't, correlate or collaborate within the same environment. It does all the time. In fact, it's a beautiful atmosphere of think of like a windy day over a gorgeous, lustrous green landscape. That's a beautiful combination. The earth doesn't move because of the wind, and the wind doesn't stop, moving and being beautifully frantic just because the earth doesn't want to move. There's no friction caused here, but it can be kind of confusing to experience. Again, we have the King of Pentacles. This is somebody who's kind of more focused on the now. They're very grounded in their energy, while the Queen of Swords wants to speak and wants to focus on the mind and getting to the, there's a sense of presence in wanting to be very honest and talk about things, but she's thinking of the past and the future and where everything can go and getting things clearly defined. You know what I mean? In a weird way, they can both share that idea of having things be defined, but there's a different, side of the sword, so to speak, of what that means in definition wise to each person. So it's kind of an interesting, confusing thing coming on. Now, the good thing about it is I do still see something developing here. Now, the wands is really interesting because, again, this is between you and another person. So for some people, this is romantic. For some people, it's just like a friendship or like a relationship, like someone kind of perspective. And we get that sort of open-ended idea when we have a wands rather than a cup situation. But either way, for some of you, this is like a new relationship starting, some passion popping up or re-popping up and taking on a new way of approaching the relationship and excitement between the two of you. This could be the excitement of interacting and creatively working on things together and feeling like you understand how the other one functions and accepting the other one for that. But now that you understand where the other one's coming from, it works better, but you're approaching things in a new way. So it's not about both of you changing, but understanding how you can best benefit, work with each other, and realize there is no disconnect, which is really beautiful. But I do want to point out how there can be a confusion in disconnect when we have this situation over here, and it's a bit of a warning going on. So the Three of Wands takes on two different meanings in this particular case. In one case, it does talk about messages being misinterpreted, or maybe they don't come through because maybe, like some sort of technology issue or problem, and maybe somebody else opened their phone text message, and then by the time they saw it, the message had been opened, so they didn't see it. It's some sort of confusion. And that can cause a lot of overwhelming feelings when you already feel the sense of like you're into each other, or you want to be friends, or whatever the situation is, but like we talked about, you think there's a disconnect. And so when it feels like it's manifesting in a real form through messages not going through or understood, it can be overwhelming. And you're basically being warned of being like, don't do that. Everything's okay. Don't get consumed by that. Everything's cool. You got to get out of that mental state in order to reach this sort of open conversation. And with the Queen of Swords, it does talk about an open-ended conversation where you're both like, all right, this is what I want to do, and this is my long-term goals or ideas of what I want to do. What do you want to do? Let's get on the same page. Let's figure out how the other one thinks and operates. But the Three of Wands in this case activates this new sort of passion between the two of you, because that's what they do. They say, hey, it's not just about an honest conversation with the Queen of Wands. It's someone saying, this is what I'm into. This is my passion. What do you feel about this? I'm sending out these vibes. Now you go. What do you feel back? And just clearly defining the relationship by both of you individually finding yourselves to each other. So overall, great, but it definitely will give some sort of comfort in all this confusion because it can feel confusing, but don't worry, it's just a little more abstract than you're used to, but it doesn't mean there isn't something cool going on here, both friendship-wise and romantic-wise, which we love. Where's the we coming from? I have no idea. We're going with it. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel like you would not believe, and it means a lot to me. I'm wishing you the best, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye!